I am Leslyn from SBT3. I will be talking about the climate change issues related to nitrogen cycle together with my group member. Firstly, I will discuss on the nitrogen and climate interaction in agriculture. Fertilizer, manure, and legume dinitrogen fixation are three main inputs of nitrogen to agricultural soils. Climate and agricultural nitrogen interacts in a complex way. Climate change affects agricultural nitrogen cycle, mainly through its impact on changing the patterns of temperature and rainfall. Effects also occur due to changes in chemical climate, in particular, via the changes in atmospheric concentration of ozone and carbon dioxide. Warming temperature will affect crop productivity because most physiological processes related to crop growth and yield are highly sensitive to temperature. Besides that, the excessive runoff flush from farm processes would produce hazard and affect the quality of drinking water. The excess water flows from the ground and gas leakage of nitrous oxide from waterways will lead to flooding and other serious polluting. This figure shows the pathway of nitrogen cycle in agricultural systems. The transformation of nitrogen occur in all ecosystems is shown in solid lines, whereas those shown in dashed lines are particular to agricultural systems. Then, it is followed by the interactive effects of excess reactive nitrogen and climate change on aquatic ecosystems and water resources. Climate change has effect on water resources which caused by the alteration in increased evaporation, warming temperature and changes in the ocean circulation. Climate may directly affect the rate of delivery of watershed nitrogen into waters. For example, greater nitrogen is transmitted to rivers in wetter regions than that in drier regions. Temperature is likely to affect nitrogen cycle by altering the stoichiometry ratio of nutrients available to biota in aquatic ecosystem. For example, the increase of carbon and nitrogen ratio of planktonic biomass could lead to a decrease in the nitrogen demand of planktonic organisms. Thus, this may lead to harmful production of algae species that might kill the aquatic life. This figure represented the movement of reactive nitrogen into and out of fresh water, which is regulated by climate and hydrological regulations. Thank you, and that's all for me.
Hi, my name is Loshni Ganesan, J17A0016 from SVT3. Today I'm going to present about the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle undergoes many different biogeochemical processes. Nitrogen undergoes several changes in the environment for growth and also energy. Nitrogen is the main compound of all living things. Both DNA and protein consist of nitrogen. So here we can see the pathways of nitrogen cycle in nature and in NMOX pathway, which included the nitrogen fixation, nitrification, denitrification, NMOX, and ammonification. Nitrogen fixation means nitrogen reaches the natural wool by means of bacteria and other cellular prokaryotes. Nitrification is another way to change the nitrogen into a natural compound by nitrifying bacteria. Many human actions impact the nitrogen cycle greatly. The burning of fossil fuels, nitrogen fertilization, and other practices will raise the quantity of bioavailable nitrogen in the environment significantly. So here are the impacts of human involvement with the nitrogen cycle that we can be seen. The first one is increased global oxide, which is a powerful greenhouse gas emission leading to photochemical smoke formation, followed that acidification in various regions of soils and water of rivers, then loss of nutrients essential to soil fertility in long term, and it will also increase the nitrogen flow into rivers, marine waters, where it will be the major pollutant to the aquatic organisms.
Nitrogen cycle towards biodiversity or overexploitation, nitrogen pollution, climate change such as El Nino, immersion of invasive alien species, and habitat destruction. In California grasslands, control experiments have shown that nitrogen and carbon dioxide increases significantly reduces forb diversity separately and in combination. For example, climate change may increase the availability of nitrogen in many ecosystems by enhancing the effect of additional nitrogen enrichment on changes in diversity by increasing the temperature to increase nitrogen mineralization in soils. Next, let us see the effect of nitrogen cycle towards air pollution and human health. Global climate change and reactive nitrogen in the environment will interact based on various mechanisms to impact ambient air pollution and cause adverse human health effects. For example, the increase in the nitrate, nitrogen oxide, and ammonia deposition together with climate change factors may lead to allergic diseases. This is because warmer temperature, changes in precipitation pattern, and carbon dioxide are able to stimulate the production of pollen.
Okay, so another negative impact of this cycle is the impact on the water quality. This could happen because of the denitrification process. So what is the denitrification process? Basically, the denitrification process will complete the nitrogen cycle by converting the nitrate back into the gaseous nitrogen. The bacterial denitrification is the agent of this cycle. They will use nitrate instead of oxygen for energy generation that will release the nitrogen gas back into the atmosphere. So there are some conditions that induce the denitrification process that may have both positive and negative consequences for the quality of water. So the positive effect of the denitrification process is that it will converting the nitrate to the nitrogen gas, which resulting in the net loss of nitrate in the soil system. Meanwhile, the negative aspect of this denitrification process is that it will occur in the soils that are waterlogged, which means the soils that are concentrated with water. In this case, the water in the soil will flow downwards. Since the nitrate can move easily with water, it can travel below the root zone and potentially can go into the groundwater. As soon as the nitrate reach the groundwater, the main risk is for the children that less than 1 year age and for young or pregnant animals. High nitrate levels can potentially harmful to the newborns or can cause nausea or internal suffocation. Okay, so seek for another sources of water if the nitrate level past the 10 ppm of the safety minimum. So the typical symptom of this nitrate poisoning is that the blue color of the skin, particularly around the eyes and the mouth of the child. And these symptom or sign are generally is called as blue baby syndrome.
All stages of the nitrogen cycle are affected by various forms of reactive nitrogen pollution. A single nitrogen atom can move around the cycle, taking different forms and creating different environmental impact. For example, a single molecule of reactive nitrogen may undergo many forms including ammonia, nitrogen oxide, nitric acid, nitrate, and organic nitrogen, and can be lead to a number of environmental, health, and social impacts.
Reactive nitrogen compounds such as urea, ammonia, or nitrate are a major component of fertilizer. They are applied to the soil to increase agriculture production plants. Humans also need nitrogen and receive it from the food they eat. A large amount of the nitrogen taken up as food is excreted in urine together with other nutrients. When urine is exposed to the environment, urea is spontaneously converted by bacteria into ammonia. When large amount of urine or wastewater reach open bodies of water, the high concentration of ammonia is toxic and can lead to eutrophication.
Different forms of nitrogen pollution vary in their impact of the global climate, with some having warming effect. For example, nitrous oxide released by fossil fuel combustion and after nitrogen fertilizer come into contact with soil, and some having a cooling effect such as the aerosol formed from ammonia emission from livestock facility. In the atmosphere, nitrogen dioxide and ammonia are directly harmful to human health, increasing of respiratory problems. Ammonia and nitrogen oxide can react with each other or with atmospheric components, contributing to the most serious air pollution problem for human health. For example, airborne particulate matter (PM). Atmospheric emission of nitrogen oxide reduce air pollution by depleting the ozone layer, and when combined with ammonia via particulate matter, the effect of particulate matter can range from eyes, respiratory irritation to cardiovascular disease and lung cancer.
Hello, my name is Tharani Radhakrishnan. Today I will be presenting about the real-life example of nitrogen cycle process and its negative impact. One of the real-life example of nitrogen cycle is when a plant uptakes nitrogen from the soil by absorbing it through its roots. The nitrogens come in the form of nitrogen ions. When the nitrogen is absorbed by the plants, it is reduced into nitrate ions. This shows the example of the nitrogen helps in the growth factor of the plant. One of the most important stages in nitrogen cycle is nitrogen fixation. The conversion process of dinitrogen into biologically available nitrogen is termed as nitrogen fixation. Although most nitrogen fixation is carried out by prokaryotes, some nitrogen can be fixed abiotically by lightning and certain industrial processes. Some nitrogen fixing organisms are free living, while others are symbiotic nitrogen fixers, which requires a close association with the host to carry out the process. Nitrogen fixing bacteria reduces dinitrogen into ammonia, which leads to the conversion of ammonia into ammonium in non-alkaline soils. The process for conversion yielding nitrifying bacteria oxidizes ammonium into nitrate under an aerobic condition. End of this process produces hydrogen, which causes the nitrification, contributes to the acidification of soils. The sedimentation and runoff of organic nitrogen or excess nitrogen from the soil into the water bodies causes the eutrophication. Eutrophication is defined as the environment of water by nutrient causing an accelerate growth of algae and higher forms of plant life to produce an undesirable disturbance to the balance of organism present in the water and to the quality of water concerned. Eutrophication increase the suspended particles owning the extensive macroalgal blooms, decrease the water clarity, and increase the rate of precipitation that leads to the destruction of benite habitat by shading of submerged vegetation. Furthermore, bottom water hypoxia, production of carbon dioxide relating to the decomposition of intensive produced organic matter, which raises the water acidification and causes injuries to the aquatic lives. The effect of nitrogen on diversity of soil microorganisms and the effect of changes of soil biodiversity on soil fertility, crop production, and nitrogen emissions toward the environment, especially on the water bodies, and needs to be controlled to improve and ensure the balance of ecosystem. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kong Ziyan. I will talk about the lab analysis of an experiment related to nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is an essential component for all living organisms on Earth. It is present in DNA, RNA, and proteins in all living organisms. Nitrogen cycle can be classified into several steps, including nitrogen fixation, nitrification, ammonification, and denitrification. The objective of the experiment was used to identify an ideal concentration of nitrate that would maximize the benefit for the plant growth. The experiment began by preparing 3 small aquariums with different concentration of nitrate in each aquarium. Java moss is an aquatic plant was used to determine the impact of nitrates on plants. The whole experiment was observed for 10 days. The experiment is measured in biomass. Based on the observation, the plant in aquarium with concentration of 0 ppm nitrate had little growth. The aquarium with nitrate concentration of 25 ppm has the most growth, while in 100 ppm nitrate concentration aquarium had no growth. This showed that the right amount of nitrogen provided for the plant stimulate the growth of plants.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Aiman Faiz from the SBT3. Today I will present about the nitrogen cycle in the part of lab analysis. So basically, nitrogen cycle is the cycle which nitrogen travels from the air to the ground, then back into the air again. So I will tell about the basic diagram about nitrogen cycle first. So this basic diagram, it shows that the nitrogen from the animal waste and dead organisms are absorbed into the soil. Then from that, bacteria to the all nitrogens. So it's suitable to be used for the plant's growth. And then the nitrogen will release back into the atmosphere and begins again the nitrogen cycle. So this cycle will repeat it again and again. So in this experiment, from that video I researched, they have conducted some experiments to see and to observe the effect of the plant growth. So there are 4 variables that are carried out. First is control plan, and second is the decomposer plan, and third is fertilizer plan, and fourth is the nitrogen plan. So these 14 is the variables for their observation about the experiment. The experiment was interesting because there are 4 variables on there, and they want to know about the effects of the plant growth. Based on the results, you can see that the graph shows that the growth of each plant, it shows that the control, fertilizer and decompose plan went pretty normally growth, but the most interesting part in the part of the nitrogen plant, it shows that the plants did not grow as well as they expected. So this is maybe a due exposure the nitrogen early to them. So it proved that too much nitrogen can definitely be a bad thing to the plant. So from the experiment and from that video, I can conclude that the results, and we can conclude that the nitrogen help us to balance the ratio of the gases in the air with the requirement of the concentration needed. Thank you. I will pass to my friends.
Okay, so now I'm going to describe about the experiment of nitrogen cycle in aquarium by using the API water test kits. Water test is important as it helps to determine the toxic level in the aquarium in order the high toxic level that might harm the fish life. In the API test kits contains test solution of pH, nitrate and nitrite. First, collect the water sample from the aquarium and fill it into 4 different test tubes. Next, drop each test solution into each one test tube and shake them vertically for the reaction to occur. Water tests need to be carried out regularly because high level of ammonia, nitrate or nitrite will harm the aquatic life. Then left them for 5 minutes for the reaction to occur and observe the color change. Okay, then compare the water color in the test tube with their respective test solution color charge to determine the toxic level. that present in the water.
So today I'm going to present about the precaution and optimal conditions of the fish inside the aquaria. So first we have to test the pH test, which is the inside the aquarium the correct pH for the fish to live is between 6.8 to 7.6, because in aquaria pH have a tendency to drop over time due to the breakdown of organic materials. So what we have to do to avoid these drops is we have to regular partial change the water. Next is total hardness test, which is total hardness is a measure of calcium, magnesium, and other ions present in the water. So for the fish, actually quite we have some fish can adapt well in the aquarium, but some cannot. So we have to make sure the total hardness is not too high for the fish to adapt with the new environment. So next is a carbonate hardness or alkalinity test, where we have to measure the carbonate and bicarbonate in water, because this carbonate and bicarbonate it has ability to resist any change in pH. And also ammonia test. So the ammonia is actually harmful to fish at a very high temperature and a pH above 7. So high concentration of ammonia is caused by a lack of nitrifying bacteria or from feeding in a high quantity of fish. Next one is nitrate test. So high concentration of nitrate will cause ammonia spike, just symptom, or is a condition where nitrate will inhibit oxygen action in fish bloodstream and it will cause fish suffocate. So the symptom is that the fish will breathe rapidly and the fish also will gasp on the surface. So the precaution for API test kits is that the meniscus. So we have to make sure that the water solution that is being used to test inside the test tube is follow the meniscus white line. Second is test solution duration. So the test solution that has been used in this API test kit must be between 3 years. Above that, it will cause the poor results. So the next one is the dropper condition. So the dropper must be touched to the edge of the test tube to be fully drops. So the next one is a tap water resist, which is the pH tap water is quite high because of the carbon dioxide concentration. So to avoid from this, we have to rest the tap water for 34 hours before test it. And the drops at must be in correct size, which is must be get from the inverted bottle, which is straight up and down. So that's all from me. Thank you.
According to the case study, in order to minimize the impact of nitrogen-climate interaction is by reducing the reactive nitrogen. When the reactive nitrogen is being reduced at the same time, the carbon dioxide gas, methane gas, and also nitrous oxide gas is being reduced. There are several mitigation measures in order to reduce the nitrogen release to atmosphere. So first is political and economic, establish clean air enforcement and policies to reduce the emission of nitrogen oxide from transportation and energy sector that can minimize the impact of climate change on biodiversity, air and water quality, also the human health. So for the second is by applying the current practice and technologies in agricultural sector by managing the fertilizer timing, optimize the use of fertilizer, and also implemented the cover crops and also the stream-side vegetation. The third is by contribute the funding to the conservation program, especially in agricultural sector, in order to reduce the nitrogen release. In conclusion, the nitrogen release give an impact to the climate change which will affect in many sectors. For example, in agricultural sector, this interaction can increase the ozone level, which can reduce the crop growth due to the high use of fertilizer. It also can cause the biodiversity loss and air pollution, which will affect human health. So the mitigation measure was taken in order to overcome these issues, such as by applying the current practice and technologies in agricultural sector by optimizing the use of fertilizer.
So today we will discuss about the global case study. So based on one journal, which is the title is the role of nitrogen in climate change and also impact of nitrogen climate change interaction in United States. So this journal was discussed about how the global nitrogen cycle is more severely altered by the human activity compared to the carbon
carbon cycle. And then this journal also talking about the reactive nitrogen dynamic, including how to mitigate adaptation and also impact of nitrogen cycle. So we talk about the adaptation of nitrogen cycle. How they adapt with the nitrogen cycle in United States. Although consideration progress has been made in reducing pollution of nitrogen oxide or from the energy industrial and also transport sector in United States, progress that has been made could be slow or reverse. So in agriculture sector, they try to minimize the usage of fertilizer and also use the fertilizer in the proper timing. This action will reduce the release of nitrogen oxide into the atmosphere. That's one of the method that adapt with the nitrogen cycle in United States.
Hi, I'm Lavashni Mageswaran, J17A0124 from SPT3. I would like to share about the impact of climate nitrogen implication on carbon sequestration, agriculture product, marine habitat, biodiversity and also air pollution based on the case study. First of all, changes in environment can dramatically affect the nitrogen cycling mechanism, which disrupting all the agricultural, marine ecosystem and also human health. Reported that the higher air temperature will reduce remediation of air quality and also further reduction in nitrogen oxide emission are needed to minimize ozone contamination. Example, flooding and heavy precipitation may induce larger releases of nitrogen as wastewater from field. Moreover, shift in river flow may impact processing of nitrogen inside the river due to drought condition. Survey proven that all the freshwater and the coastal area in US are polluted by nitrogen emission, especially remote site at Rocky Mountain National Park at Colorado. There is also possible to grow more regular blooms of toxic and harmful algal bacteria. Lastly, increasing atmospheric temperature will raise concentration of ammonia in manure handling process that lead to reduced productivity of nitrogen usage in livestock production. Thank you.